Today we're going to be talking about how we divide integers. Now the good news is it's the same exact rules that we learned yesterday about multiplying integers. So we've talked about two separate rules. What were the rules for adding and subtracting integers? Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract and take. Good job. Now, the rules for today are exactly the same as when we multiply. Okay, so multiplying and dividing are the same rules. I want you to pull out your red pens and go ahead and fill in this section. Okay, so this is basically called the even and the odd rule. If we have an even number of negative signs, we will always have a positive quotient. What does quotient mean? Answer, okay? It's the answer for a division problem. So if there's an even number of negative signs, you will always have a positive quotient or a positive answer. So how many negative numbers do you see here in this problem?
2.
There are 2. Is the number 2 an even or an odd number?
Even.
It's an even number, okay? Because our even numbers are 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. Because I have 2, an even number, my answer has to be? Positive. It must be a positive answer. So then, what is 10 divided by 2? 5. And box your answer. So negative 10 divided by negative 2 equals positive 5. Going on to the next one. The odd number of negative signs will always give you a negative quotient or a negative answer. So how many negative signs do you see in this problem? There's only one. Is the number 1 odd or even?
Odd.
It's an odd. So my answer has to be?
Odd. Negative.
Negative. Okay. Now what is 12 divided by 3?
4.
So your answer is negative 4. All right. So that's how the even and odd rule works. It's the same as multiplying. So today we're going to work through some division kind of problems. First up, Nemo, negative 18 divided by negative 6. How many negative numbers do you see there? 2. Is the number 2 even or odd? Even. So because there's an even number of negative integers, does my answer turn positive or does it stay negative?
Positive.
It turns positive. What's 18 divided by 6?
3.
3 is correct. Negative 32 divided by negative 4. Just the boys. How many negative signs do you see?
2.
There are 2. Is the number 2 even or odd?
Even.
It is even. If I have an even number of negative signs, my answer has to be positive. So what is 32 divided by 4?
8.
8. The correct answer is positive 8. Going on to the next one. Jonte, 14 divided by 2? 7. That's just a normal kind of problem. There are no negative signs, so we know our answer is going to stay positive. Next up, Addie. Negative 40 divided by negative 8. How many negative signs do I have? 2. So is my answer going to stay negative or turn positive? It goes to be a positive. And what's 40 divided by 8? 5. So remember, you always want to find your sign first and then go ahead and answer the problem. Let's go on to the next one. Holly, 75 divided by negative 25. How many negative signs are there? 1. So my answer has to be? It's going to be negative. And how many times can 25 go into 75? So 3, and then our final answer is negative 3. Micah, 0 divided by negative 6. Very good. Okay, it's going to be 0, not negative 0. Class, why is it not negative 0?
0 can now be negative or positive.
0 will never be negative or positive. Who wants to do problem G for me? Peyton, negative 54 divided by 6. Okay, very good. We know that the answer has to be negative because there's only one negative number. The correct answer is negative 9. Emma, 21 divided by negative 3.
It'll be a negative because there's only one.
Very good. There's only one negative, so you do want it to be negative.
And then 3 divided by 24 is 7, so it's negative 7.
You are correct, negative 7. Any questions on problems A through G? For the next one, evaluate the expression when x equals 8 and y equals negative 4. Repeat after me. Plug it in, plug it in.
Plug it in, plug it in.
So we're going to try to get rid of these letters and turn them into numbers. So instead of having an x right here, what will I put in place of it?
8.
An 8. Let's go ahead and put an 8. Next up, this is a 2 and then a y. What does it mean when there's a number next to a letter? Does that mean I'm adding them, subtracting them, multiplying, or dividing them?
It's the second power thingy.
It means to multiply. So a 2y means 2 times y. Okay, anytime you have a number next to a letter, it means to multiply them together. So I'm going to go ahead and take this 2, and I'm going to bring it over here. What should I put there instead of a y?
Either a dot.
Not a 4. What's it say it is?
Negative 4.
-4. Now, should I leave it just like this? 2, -4.
No.
What do I have to do to those two numbers?
You have to take the negative, put it on the outside of the
I have to do parentheses because that tells me I have to multiply them. So I'm going to go ahead and put 2 times -4 because this means 2 times y. All right? Now, let's bring this down. I've got 8. And then what is 2 times -4? -8. All right, now I'm working a division problem right here. 8 divided by -8. Justin? Not 0. If I have one negative number, I know my answer has to be positive or negative? Negative. And then let's imagine that we have 8 people, and I need to split those 8 people into 8 different groups. How many are in each group? 1. Anytime that you have a number divided by itself, it always equals 1. Problem B. Notice, do I have parentheses right here on the -x? No, I do not. So what should I do to that negative sign? Just drop it down. Now I'm going to go ahead and plug in. Holly, help me out. What's my x? 8. So I'm going to go ahead and do 8 squared plus 12 divided by, Jackson, what's my y? -4. Can someone explain to me why it would be smart for me to put parentheses right here? I'm not multiplying it. What do you think?
So no one gets confused with the sign on it.
Good job. You don't get confused because there's 2 signs right there side by side. It just means I'm dividing by a negative number. Very good. All right, so now we've got to do some work. What do you think I should do first? Should I do this adding right here, or should I do some dividing right here? What comes first? Dividing. So let's go ahead and underline that so I know I'm going to work this part first, okay? What is 12 divided by -4? -3. So let's just drop that answer down directly underneath it. Do I know what this answer is right here? 8 squared.
Yes.
What is 8 squared? Okay, not 16 because I got to do 8 times 8. Okay, so let's drop down our negative sign. 8 times 8 is 64. And there's one more thing I need to drop down. What is it?
The plus sign.
The plus sign. All right, now once again, sometimes people might go ahead and put parentheses here. Does that mean I have to multiply that?
No.
No. Why would I do that?
So you don't get confused.
There's 2 signs side by side. Now this is a rule that we learned long ago. Jordan, if I have a plus, a minus, who always wins? The minus sign always wins because that means if I'm adding a negative, I'm always subtracting. So I'm going to bring down -64, and basically this plus goes away and the negative sign wins, -3. Now we've got one last step. Do you think for this last step, -64 minus 3, will I use my adding and subtracting rules, or will I use our new rules, multiply and divide, for this last step? Add and subtract. What are my adding and subtracting rules? Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract and take. Do I have a same sign or different sign here?
Same sign.
Same sign. So, Micah, what do I do? Add it together and keep the sign. What do you get, Micah? Okay, good job. We're going to do a -67. All right, so that was a long problem. We used a lot of the rules we've learned about adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing. We've used our order of operations with PEMDAS, so you guys just packed a lot of stuff into that one tiny problem. Let's do one more example like this. X squared divided by y plus 4. Peyton, what should my x squared be?
8 squared.
8 squared. What should my y be?
-4.
And then also bring in your
Plus 4.
+4. All right, is there any work to do up here in the numerator?
Yes.
Yes, what is 8 squared?
64.
64. Okay, so I'm going to drop that down. 64 divided by -4 plus 4. Peyton, should I do this division part first, or should I add it first? Good job. According to PEMDAS, we always do the division first. Now, because we don't know our 64 times tables, it might be helpful for you to just come off to the side and do 64 divided by 4. All right, so you learn this goes in here 16 times. Okay, so coming back over here, 64 divided by negative 4. Should it be positive or negative?
Negative.
Let's make it a negative. So I've got negative 16 plus 4. Now let's go back to our rules. Are these the adding and subtracting rules or multiplying and dividing rules? Adding and subtracting, okay? Negative 16 plus 4. Emma, what's the answer?
Negative 20.
All right, 12. Should my answer be positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative, why?
Because the number that has the negative sign is larger.
Okay, the negative number was larger, so we have to keep the sign. Negative 12 is correct. All right, we're going to go ahead and relate this to real life, okay? You measure the height of the tide using the support beams of a pier. What is the tide? Very good. It's the water level or the water height down there at the ocean. The height of the tide is 59 inches at 2 p.m. And what is it at 8 p.m.?
8 inches.
8 inches. It's asking us now to find the mean hourly change in the height. So a lot of times when we get this kind of problem, we're like, oh my goodness, that's so many words. I have no idea what to do. So what I want us to do first is to come up with something called a verbal model. Verbal model basically means we're going to use words to try to figure out how to find this answer. So in order to do a problem like this, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and start with the final height. Okay, so I want you guys to go ahead and write these words, final height. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and subtract the initial height. Does anyone think you might know what initial means?
First.
The first one, the original, or the beginning. Then I'm going to go ahead and use the fraction bar, which means to divide. We're going to divide one last thing. According to all the information that was given to you up here, what is one thing we haven't really used yet?
Time.
The time. So we are going to divide it by the time elapsed, or the time that it has taken for this to occur. All right, I know that was a lot to take in. I've kind of color coordinated these things just so it makes a little bit more sense as we start to substitute. Right here, a substitution just means it's a fill-in. So I used words before, but now we're going to substitute it or fill it in with numbers. So in pink, I'm going to go ahead and write what the final height was. Guys, what was the final height at the end of the day?
8 inches.
8 inches. So let's go ahead and plug it in, 8 inches. In my original problem, it now tells me to subtract the initial height or the beginning height. 59 inches. Next, it has asked us to divide by the time elapsed. How much time did that take for that to happen?
6 hours.
6 hours. Here's why. Because it started at 2 p.m. and now it's 8 p.m. So the difference between the two, the time elapsed or the time that it took, was 6 hours. So now we're going to go ahead and do the numerator first. 8 minus 59. Same sign or different sign there, guys? Different sign. The 8 is positive, the 59 is negative. So different signs, subtract and take. What's 59 minus 8?
51. Negative 51.
Negative 51. And then we're just going to go ahead, negative 51 inches divided by 6 hours. Now, I'm going to give you a little clue. Whenever it asks you for something like this, the mean hourly change, it does not want a denominator that is anything except for a 1. Have you ever heard of someone saying, like, I went 50 miles per hour?
Yes.
They don't ever say something like, I went 22 miles per 6 hours. Okay, you always do it with a 1 at the denominator, per hour. So in this case, we want it to be per hour. So can anyone think of how I would turn this 6 into a 1? What should I divide by to get that 6 to turn into a 1? Jordan, you got to divide by 6. So if I divide my denominator by 6, guess what I have to do to my numerator?
Divide it by 6.
Also divide it by 6. Now, let's think about this. What does 6 divided by 6 equal? 1. So I am only dividing by the number 1, technically, divided by 6 by 6. So it means I'm getting the same exact answer. It's just kind of like simplifying it. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is our numerator. Negative 51 inches divided by 6. Let's find our sign first. If I have one negative number, is my answer going to be positive or negative? It has to be negative because 1 is odd. So I know for sure it's going to be negative. Let's just come over to the side and do 51 divided by 6. How many times can a 6 go into a 51?
8.
8 times. 8 times 6 is 48. When you subtract it, you get 8 and 3/6. Can that be simplified?
Yes.
To what?
A half.
8 and 1/2, okay? So 8 and 1/2. And what were my units on the numerator?
Inches.
Inches per, what is it on the bottom? What is 6 divided by 6? 1 hour. So the correct answer is negative 8.5 inches per hour. Let's just think about this. If it started at 59 and it went down to 8, did it decrease or increase? It decreased. So it makes sense that it would be a negative because it's going downward 8.5 inches per hour. All right, great job on that one. All right, so not this week, but next week there will be a test and a quiz, and this kind of problem will be on there. So let's do another example that will help us. A female grizzly bear weighs 500 pounds. After hibernating for 6 months, she weighs only 350 pounds. So did her weight go up or did it go down?
Down.
It went down. Now imagine if you did not eat for 6 months. Your weight would probably go down too. The question is now asking us, what is the mean monthly change in weight? So I want you guys to look back at problem A and look at that initial verbal model, the initial words. What was the initial verbal model we had for problem A? Read it to me.
Final height minus initial height over time lapse.
Okay, it was the final height minus the initial height divided by, not just over, the time elapsed. Now, am I talking about height in this problem at all?
No.
I am not. What am I talking about? Weight. So what do you think the first thing is that I'm probably going to put in my verbal model?
Final weight.
Final weight. Everybody write it down. Chandler, what sign do you think I'm going to put next according to what we did in problem A? I'm going to subtract something. Addie, what do you think I'm going to subtract? Look back at problem A. Very good job. We are going to subtract the initial weight or the beginning weight. Jackson, what do you think I should do next? Look back at problem A to help you. Very good job. That fraction bar means to divide by the time elapsed or the time that it took. So what I want you guys to do now is to look back in our story problem and see if you can make your substitution. See if you can figure out what the final weight is, the initial weight is, and the time elapsed or the time that it took to do it. All right. As I walked around, many of you guys had good answers there. First off, let's go ahead and plug it in for me. What was the final weight?
350 pounds.
350 pounds. And then remember, I'm just going to bring down my subtraction sign. What was my initial weight?
500 pounds
500 pounds.
divided by
And I've got to divide by what?
6 months. 6 months.
Divide it by 6 months. Okay, how many of you would say you did plug in all of those? Remember, for a substitution, I literally want to see plugged in this for what we had the words up there. Okay, that's the difference between a verbal model and a substitution. You're just substituting in numbers. So make sure your notes look exactly like this. So now let's go ahead and figure this out. Do the numerator first. What's 350 pounds minus 500 pounds?
150. Negative 150.
Negative 150 pounds. That's where a lot of people made a mistake. They just said 150 pounds. But take the sign of the larger number. Then divide that. Once again, we're going to keep our same 6 months. Remember, I never want to have a number other than 1 in the denominator whenever I am trying to find the mean change of something, okay, the average change. So we're going to divide it by 6 on top and on bottom. What is negative 150 divided by 6?
Negative 25.
Negative 25 pounds. Okay, and once again, if you didn't know how to do that, you just come off to the side and do 150 divided by 6, and you know it comes out to being 25. And our answer we know has to be negative. So negative 25 pounds per what? Per 1 month. Okay, how many of you would say you got the same answer? Fantastic. How many of you just forgot the negative sign?
Oh.
All right, so listen. At the beginning of this lesson, you guys thought these problems were impossible, but hopefully this has helped you to realize it's not an impossible problem, and many of you were able to do it, okay? So just think, the verbal model will be the same. You always take whatever the final thing was, subtract the beginning thing, and divide it by your time. And that's how you will ever find the mean monthly change of something, okay? I want you guys to go ahead and do the final 3 problems on your own. All right, hopefully you've had a chance to discuss it with your partner. How many of you would say you and your partner got the same answers for all 3? Okay, not everyone. Let's check our answers real quick. Negative 12 divided by 4?
Negative 3.
Negative 3, good job, because there was only 1 negative. Negative 6 divided by negative 2?
3.
That is positive because there were 2 negatives, which is an even number. And last one, 15 divided by negative 3?
Negative 5.
Negative 5. Great job today, guys.